What's up YouTube? Anubis Black has returned for part 3 of the Looney Tunes games marathon, and like I said last time, I hope y'all are locked and loaded because today we're going to talk about what is probably the most bizarre game in the franchise that features the Looney Tunes characters packing heat. And unfortunately, is the last official Looney Tunes console game to ever come out. I said the last official Looney Tunes console game to ever come out. Now, this title released in 2007, about a year into the 7th generation of gaming consoles for the PS2, Xbox 360, and Nintendo Wii, but not for the PS3 for some strange reason. I originally played this game many years ago with my friend via the split-screen co-op system, and we enjoyed it. Mind you, we were both about 12 or 13 years old at the time, and the main thing I remember about it was the guns, so I can't accurately speak for the quality of the game from that experience. However, I ended up playing the game again recently as an adult, and there's quite a lot to say about it. So let's not waste another second and jump straight into this discussion to see if Looney Tunes Acme Arsenal can carry its own weight. Looney Tunes Acme Arsenal has always been an odd game to talk about for me. Sure, it's the typical 3D platformer that you'd expect from this franchise, but the studio behind it decided to add a little seasoning by including guns and beat-em-up mechanics. And these new mechanics may or may not work very well. Of course, Looney Tunes games have never been a stranger to having combat, but it wasn't the sole focus until now, I believe. Most of what you'll be doing is taking out waves of robots and enemies by stringing together very simple combos and using one of the many weapons laying around. Being that this is one of the later Looney Tunes games to come out, it does somewhat feel like the elements of many past titles have been culminated into it. But that doesn't really say much considering what we actually got here. Acme Arsenal was developed by Red Tribe, which is a small studio that I'd never heard of until playing this game. They don't exactly have an impressive track record to say the least. Also, Acme Arsenal was published by Warner Bros. Games, of course, and something interesting about that is how this game has a sister title developed by WayForward called Duck Amuck for the Nintendo DS. I've never played it and I don't necessarily plan to, but it does look kinda fun. Also, it somehow managed to have a higher on average review score than Acme Arsenal, so that should really tell you something. Anyway, this game centers around a time travel themed plot where most of the main tunes must travel to different eras or dimensions or something so that they can save their ancestors from being snuffed out by this itty-bitty evil scientist, Dr. Frankenbeans. I'm surprised Warner Bros. Wanted to do yet another time travel story, but I guess there's gotta be some kind of plot. Also, I don't blame you if you didn't even know what the plot was about, because the game does a poor job of giving context to what the hell is even going on most of the time. It opens with Bugs falling out of the sky where he ends up fighting robots with Marvin the Martian, and then after that they take a rocket ship back to their base so they can start time traveling. A lot of stuff that happens in this game just kind of feels like random out of context moments, and at one point everybody is eating Thanksgiving dinner for some reason. It just seems like a string of events with the tunes chilling and hanging around until the next level starts. Now, I know it may not seem like much of a story, and honestly it isn't, but there's definitely some things to remember about it. Admittedly, the graphics and animation in the cutscenes look pretty great and the best they've ever looked. Even though each scene was kind of all over the place, it was always nice to see them. The same goes for the character models themselves. Also, this game is packed with little references to old Looney Tunes media scattered all over the place, so if you happen to catch a few that you recognize, I'm sure it'll be appreciated. This also applies to the gameplay too. Oh yeah, and to say about the gameplay, how do I put this? It's not terrible per se, but being that it is a beat 'em up, you really gotta add more flavor to keep it interesting the whole way through. And yes, obviously we have the guns to utilize this time, but that still didn't stop the combat from feeling repetitive and monotonous after a while. The guns are kinda fun to use, but strangely their damage output is not as effective as melee attacking, which is weird considering that's like the main draw of this title. Well, I guess it also depends on what gun you get. Most of the available weapons to choose from are dropped by defeated enemies or can be purchased by collecting coins. And if you pick up the yellow energy bars, you can strengthen said weapon. It does help out a little bit, but honestly, most of the time, a good ground pound attack or two will usually take out most enemies, or at the very least stun them. Also, it's pretty strange how both Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam are not playable characters despite being known for using guns. Besides that, there will occasionally be a button or switch to press or some kind of puzzly thing to do, an easy boss battle to fight every now and then, or a running/vehicle section, but they're kinda half-baked unfortunately. Especially the driving part near the end. It's like probably one of two moments like that in the whole game. And even with all that, I still found the gameplay as a whole to be a bit lackluster compared to previous titles. Which is a shame because you can tell some genuine effort was put in to make this a new high-octane experience for the Tunes, and the fact that this is the last game of its kind to ever come out in a long time. The game itself controls well enough, I'd say. All my button inputs worked as well as they were supposed to most of the time, but doing the same basic 3 or 4 hit combo over and over again on hordes of enemies got kinda boring, and the guns themselves, while fun to use, didn't make much of a difference, I'm afraid. Now, if I remember correctly, the only other modes in this game outside of the main story are battling against friends in multiplayer or this god-awful Wile E. Coyote chase thing. You see, they tried to recreate my favorite minigame from back in action, but this time it frickin' sucks. The controls are stiff and awkward, and you'll constantly be hitting stuff that pops out of the ground, which is annoying. It's just not very fun to me and easily the most disappointing thing in Acme Arsenal. Now, I know this review so far has been mostly critique, but returning to this game gave me a very mixed feeling. It's far from being completely bad, and there are a few decent elements to it, but overall, as much as I hate to say it, I found this one to be below average. I'd much rather play Back in Action or Taz Wanted again, or even the PS1 games. Despite leaving on that sour note, if for some reason you want to try this game for yourself, it is available on PS2, Xbox 360, and Nintendo Wii like I said before. And if you have played it already and feel different about the experience, let me know in the comments section below. Thankfully, we can end this PS2 marathon in a good direction because next time I'll be talking about Looney Tunes Space Race. Thanks for watching Anubis Black Games as always. Have a good evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.